One cold winter night in September 1984, a 16-year-old was fast asleep in her bed. At around 1 a.m., she woke up to what sounded like scratching sound coming from her bedroom window. And so she sits up, she rubs her eyes, turns on the night lamp, and she sees clear as a day there's this dark figure right outside her window fidgeting with the handle. And as soon as she turned this night lamp on, the figure froze for a second and then they started banging on this window trying to break in. And so this girl, she's obviously terrified, so she gets off her bed, she runs to her mother, and they are the only two people at home right now. She runs to her mom and she's crying and she's like, someone is trying to break into my room. And this mother, she's not panicking. She looks at her daughter and she goes, hide in the bathroom, I'll be right back. And once the daughter is gone, she picks up a bat and she makes her way out. Once outside, she walks across the perimeter, and surely, right outside her daughter's bedroom window was this man about 6 feet tall. And without asking a question, this woman, she starts swinging this bat at this man. And this man, he is so surprised by this sudden attack, he just collapses and he's looking up, and for a flash, this woman, she sees his face and he immediately covers it with his arms. But she continues to give him blow after blow after blow until he finally just gets up and runs into the night. And once he's gone, this woman, she watches him run away. Once he's gone, she makes her way back inside. She makes sure all the doors and windows are locked. She finds her daughter and then she calls 911. About a year passes and the police, they just don't find anything on this man. They never find him. And the mother and daughter, they do move on, but they are like very paranoid now. Like every time, every night, they would lock their doors, their windows, and then they double check, triple check, because once something like this happens, it never really goes out of your head. Like subconsciously, you're always thinking it's gonna happen again. Plus, this woman beat the crap out of this man. So she's always worried that maybe one day he just comes back for revenge, but he never does. And so on one afternoon in August of 1985, this mother, she's sitting in her living room watching the TV when the news anchor says that a very notorious serial killer was just arrested. And as soon as she sees his face on TV, she knows this is the exact man who was trying to break into their home. The name of the serial killer was Richard Ramirez, aka the Night Stalker. Richard's crime spree began somewhere in April of 1984 and lasted until his arrest in the August of 1985. And during this span, he is said to have brutally murdered and looted multiple homes. He also raped multiple women, especially multiple older disabled women. He was only caught after the police find DNA evidence in the car that he had abandoned, and one of his sole survivors identified him. Needless to say, the girl and her mother got really lucky that he did not break into their house while both of them were asleep. But if you think this was the only instance where someone had come face to face with a serial killer and gotten away, you might be wrong. In the mid 1980s in England, a girl one day, she wakes up, she has this severe headache and fever and nausea. And so she gets off of bed, she walks to her parents and they look at her and they can clearly see that she is going through it. And so they're like, you should totally just go back to bed. Like maybe take another nap and maybe you'll feel better. And so that is exactly what she does. She goes to bed, but when she wakes up, she's not feeling better. In fact, she's feeling worse than she was before. And so not wanting to take any risk, she starts pressuring her father into getting her an appointment at the local clinic. And so her father complies, and that evening, this girl, along with her mother, they both make their way over to this clinic. Like I said, it's a local clinic, it's in their neighborhood, one this girl has visited ever since she was a child. And as they got inside, the receptionist greeted them and then asked them to take a seat as the doctor was busy with another patient. And about 15 minutes pass when the door to this office finally opens and out walks an elderly patient along with their caregiver and the doctor. And this girl, she looks up at the doctor. He's wearing this very distinct squarish glasses, and he looks at her, he gives her a smile and he goes back inside. A couple minutes later, this girl and her mother, they both called inside, and the doctor, he diagnoses her with an infection and he starts writing her a prescription. And as he's writing it, he starts talking about the weather and about asking this girl about her school and her life. And this girl, she's replying because she knows this man and she's talking to him, she's telling him everything, and then she takes the prescription and she leaves. About a decade passes and nobody thinks anything of this. That is until this woman, the girl, she is all grown up, she has a daughter of her own and she's moved out of her hometown. One day she sees a very familiar photo in the newspaper. The heading reads, "Notorious serial killer arrested in England." And when she looks at this photo, it's the exact same doctor that she and her family used to visit when she was young and she was living in that area. And the name of this doctor was Dr. Harold Shipman, and he is said to have murdered more than 250 people. Basically, he would kill all of his elderly patients by drugging them and making it seem like it was all natural causes, and once they died, he would push these victim families to cremate the body so that the evidence of his crimes were just gone. And so he was arrested and he was taken in, and a few years later when he was tried, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, just 4 years after getting this sentence, he committed by hanging himself in his jail cell. The year is 1990 and a young girl, who we'll call Jane for the sake of this video, she is making her way to school, and as she's reaching the gate, she turns and she sees her best friend Lucky walking towards her. Lucky is also a fake name that we are using for this story. And so immediately Jane is very excited and she starts waving at Lucky, but something is off. Like Lucky, as she's walking, she keeps peeking over her shoulder again and again, and she's sweating like she's very nervous, and she's walking faster than usual. And so as soon as Lucky reaches Jane, Jane is like, "Hey, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." And Lucky does not respond. She just grabs Jane by the arm and she starts dragging her into the school. And while she's dragging Jane towards their class, Jane keeps asking, "What's going on? Why you're acting so strangely? Why are you behaving like this?" And Lucky doesn't respond. Once they get in class, finally Lucky turns to Jane and she's like, "I think a blonde guy in a shitty white car is following me. Like when I left home, he was right there, and all the way to school, he was right behind me driving very slowly, and his eyes, they were completely, the whole time they were fixed on me. He was definitely following me." And so Jane, she hears this and she is obviously worried about her friend, and she's like, "That sounds very strange. If you don't mind, I can walk with you on the way home." And so while Lucky was still very on edge because of this whole stalking situation, the idea of having her best friend walk her home was somewhat comforting to her. And so after school, both Jane and Lucky start walking towards Lucky's house. And surely there was a blonde guy who started following both of them in his white car. But neither of them confronted him, because yes, there was a chance that they could potentially scare him away, but there was also a chance where they couldn't scare him and then things could go very wrong very fast. And so both of these girls, they're very young, they're like teenagers, and they start walking really fast towards Lucky's house. And once the house is in vision, they practically sprint inside, they close the door and they lock it. Now Lucky's mom, she's in the kitchen while all this is happening. She hears the commotion, she comes outside to see Jane and Lucky just standing by the door looking like they'd seen a ghost. And so she's like, "What is going on? Why were you guys running?" And Lucky sees her mom and she starts crying and she hugs her and she starts telling her how there's this guy who's been following them. And as she's telling her mom this, her mom goes, "Wait a minute, did you just say blonde guy and white car?" And Lucky is like, "Yeah, why?" And her mom goes, "That guy came to our house. Like when you were at school, he came here. He said he lost his dog and he was looking for it, and he asked me if I'd seen it, but I told him I hadn't. And he tried to come inside asking for water or juice, but I just got a really bad feeling from him, and so I asked him to leave." And this detail, it immediately pushed both of these girls over the edge. Now they're both panicking and Lucky is crying and she's like, "We need to call the cops. We need to call the police. And so they do, and then the next day this guy, he is nowhere to be seen. He does not follow Lucky to school, he does not try to break into her house, he just leaves them alone. And so about a few years, like 3 years pass, and they don't have any such incident happen ever again. That was until one day when Jane and Lucky saw this man's face plastered all over the news. It's in newspaper, it's on TV channels, it's everywhere. The name of this guy was Paul Bernardo, and he was Canada's most notorious serial slash killer. During his crime spree, he has said to have murdered at least 3 young girls and over 11 minors, including his own sister-in-law. He was only caught after his DNA was found on one of the bodies of his victim, and his wife Carla ratted him out to her aunt and uncle. Now his wife was also a part of his criminal activities for a major part of his life, and so both these people, they were charged and tried in court, where Paul was given life imprisonment with possibility of parole after 25 years. Although as of 2024, 3 of his parole requests have been denied, stating that he is simply too dangerous to be allowed back into society. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you found it interesting, make sure to drop a like and comment and subscribe to the channel. If you're still watching, thank you. The channel is very small, and so YouTube doesn't really know how to find my audience yet. But if you enjoyed this video, I am glad. I'm not very good with vulnerability, so I'll give you a very morbid fact. In the 1980s in Africa, there was a serial killer crocodile. Look it up. Bye.